So what I'm doing for today's top 15 video, I'm covering my top 15 favorite Blood Gulch crew members from Red vs. Blue. I wanted to do my favorite characters of Red vs. Blue, but there are just way too many characters to do, and I couldn't limit this down to 15 because there's so many things to consider, so many different characters and so many different aspects of the show. So I think I'm going to divide it into, groupings. I'll do the Blood Gulch crew, I'll do Project Freelancer, and then I'll maybe do some extra side characters who don't belong to either one of those groups. But first, I'm going to do Blood Gulch crew members. Basically, these are going to be characters that were in the show from the first 5 seasons, the Blood Gulch Chronicles. And this was a very, very tough list to make. I feel like I say this every episode, but this was definitely one of my hardest to make, and it feels I can't help but kind of feel like it's a little arbitrary. Like I could have 5 of these people be tied for number 1, honestly, and it was very tough. It was very tough to make the list. But I'll start off with number 15, which was, I'll admit, the easiest one on this list, just because of less screen time than other people. This is, of course, the unsung hero of Red vs. Blue. At number 15, I've got Private Jimmy. Like I said, we just don't see Private Jimmy enough. He has a very huge impact on the show, especially if you go look at future seasons. Number 14, I have Sheila. And some of these lower people, it kind of hurts having them so low. It's like I'd want them to be higher, but Sheila, we just don't see much of Sheila post the Blood Gulch Chronicles, and there's some funny bits, I feel like, but I don't know. It was, like I said, it was tough to do. 13 is Junior, and the only reason Junior is so low on the list is because we don't get much, like with Sheila, we don't get much of Junior post Blood Gulch Chronicles, and Junior was a key part in, like, I want to say, like, the later half, I suppose, of the Blood Gulch Chronicles, but it's just, he's less a character and more a plot device, if that makes sense. Kind of like how a baby in a TV show isn't really a character, it's just a plot device that person's pregnant or that person has a baby. And so that's kind of what they do with Junior, but to a hilarious extent, and I guess that's why he's 13. Number 12 is Andy. Andy is a hilarious character. I'll be honest, Andy has some hilarious lines, and he's very quotable, a lot of stuff he does, but I guess it's kind of strange being up on 12, because I've mentioned how the previous characters aren't on the list just because of lack of presence post season 5, but Andy more so has been very absent from the show post season 5. Except like a mention, like 1 or 2 brief mentions post season 5. Whereas Sheila has been somewhat. Sheila has a little bit of a role in season 6 and a couple mentions going forward. Junior keeps popping up here and there, but Andy has really been just off the radar post season 5, which is strange because I feel like with this whole AI thing they've established, he's a much more easy character to integrate to this more grounded, so to speak, setting that they introduced post season 5. Number 11 is Sister, and it's still it feels kind of low, but when I look at the top 10, I just feel like I can't do anything else. There's a big stretch of absence of Sister, which really hurts, and then now we've recently gotten more Sister more frequently in the show, which is very good. I think that definitely bumps it up. It's a very funny character brought in, but it's still, a lot of it a lot of it in season 5 is playing off other characters specifically, you know, Tucker specifically and Griff specifically, but still good stuff there. Number 10 is Vic. Now at this point we're getting into characters who have been on the show for almost all of the seasons, if not all of them. But Vic is a hilarious character. The way he talks, the way he says the things he says, his attitude, his demeanor, it's just hilarious. And the way he ties in with the bigger plot going on, he still kind of stays relevant going forward throughout the seasons, bringing it back. And his last season that I think season 15, just has some hilarious stuff in my opinion. It's a hilarious little subplot with him that I enjoy very much. These next couple hurt a little bit to have so low, but number 9 I have Church, which having such a huge character in the show be so low is kind of tough, but because they're all hilarious. I feel like I'm going to be repeating myself constantly that all these characters are just hilarious, because they are. They're hilarious. Their storylines are hilarious. The things they do and say are just hilarious. The show's great. But Church specifically is so tied up with the main plot, the main serious plot, that it almost takes away from... I don't want to say almost takes away, but I don't know. And I'm dealing with Church like specifically, and so we lose Church in like season 8. I think we finally officially lose Church, and then Epsilon takes over. So I'm considering Epsilon a different character, but it's kind of like Church-esque. So this original Church is gone very early on, and I just feel like there was much more they could have done with Church, but they kind of wrap up his storyline a couple times. He has multiple deaths throughout the show. I want to say, does Church maybe die in episode 6? Yeah, I think Church dies in season 6, actually. Spoiler, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. He dies in 6, then he dies in 8, then he dies in 10, then he dies in 14, but number 8 is Tucker, also very low, but I can't, I have no wiggle room on this list. This is, top 15, and there's 15 great characters. Tucker like Church, has been very central to the plot, I think, and I can't really think of any reason for him not to be on the list. These other characters are just funnier. I don't know. Like, I enjoy their caricatures, I suppose. Tucker and Church feel more like real people, and everyone else on this list feels like a I don't know, just like a caricature, I suppose, kind of, in a way, which I like them more because of that. Number 7 is Doc, and I guess I got Doc right in the middle, because I also kind of I'm not sure on how to weigh in with pairing Doc with O'Malley, because all of Doc's storyline, for the most part, has tied in with O'Malley, but that storyline has just been one of my favorites of the season. So I guess I kind of got to look at Doc individually, which is kind of why he's right there in the middle, which I feel is good. Number 6 is Simmons. I think Simmons is one of the few characters on the show to be constant on the show. I think he's the first person I've mentioned on this list who's been constant since season 1. And I got Simmons at number 6 because he really just plays well with so many other characters. He plays off Griff well. He plays off Sarge and Caboose and all these people. He just plays off them really well, and he's a very good addition, a very valuable member, so to speak. At number 5. Number 5, I have Griff. Griff is another one of these characters who kind of become caricatures of themselves, so to speak. I feel like at times they maybe play it a little less. He's slowly becoming more of a him and Simmons specifically have become more of a character that's important to the plot. You know, they've been wanting to gear towards red team story development a little more after all the blue team stuff we've had. So number 4 is Donut. I mentioned these characters who have just become caricatures of themselves, and that's just exactly what Donut is. Donut is just a long recurring joke, and it's hilarious. It never gets old. The double entendres, the lightish red. It's just classic. It never gets old. You can't not love Donut. So now, number 3 is Sarge, and we're gonna see the same. There's not gonna be surprises with these. With some of these top 3, in my opinion. Sarge is a very popular character on Red vs. Blue, and he's also one of the characters who has been very consistently on the show. Simmons and Sarge so far. Well, Simmons, Griff, and Sarge. Griff had a little bit in season, I want to say 14. No, season 15. Griff had a little bit in season 15 where he wasn't there, but most of the characters have a little bit of stint where they're not there. But Sarge and Simmons have always kind of been there, and Sarge is just another great character. He's got the quotes, the I don't know, like his mental state. I suppose I don't know the best way to say it, but there was that whole storyline in season 5 where he just refuses to believe that there's the tank on the base, and even though they all know that there was a tank when they left, it's just his stubbornness and his age, the way he talks versus apparently he's like 20, and he's so fanatical. He's almost like one of the Red Zealots, but I don't know, it's funny too. It's really tough to talk about these characters, but without just saying they're hilarious over and over again. I'll be honest. Number 2 is going to be Caboose. Caboose is definitely a fan favorite character on this show. I mean, Caboose has been one of the best things about Caboose has been seeing that slow deteriorate from the almost normal character we get in season 1, as he slowly falls down and down to the Caboose that we know, just the moron that we see. I kind of see it similar to the character of Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. How almost like all the characters in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in season 1 of Sunny, they're all basically normal people, and then their personalities start to devolve almost. Charlie becomes more and more illiterate. Dennis becomes more and more psychotic, and I just like to see that. I like to see the de-evolution of a character, and we see that really strongly with Caboose, and that's really good. And my favorite character at number 1 is going to be Lopez. I love Lopez so much. Lopez is such a great character. It's just the whole premise of his character, the whole joke, which is just, it's a constant joke. He is a joke, basically. They've got this Spanish they built this Spanish speaking robot that no one speaks Spanish. At least in the beginning, no one speaks Spanish. No one understands him, but people still have conversations with him. People still talk to him. People still hear whatever he says and assume that it's what they want to hear. So Sarge will have full-on conversations with Lopez. Meanwhile, Lopez is just insulting him and talking about how much he hates him, and then Lopez really starts getting stronger once he starts interacting with Donut more, because Donut has this like high school level of Spanish, so he like barely knows Spanish, which is now worse for Lopez. Like he would rather people not talk to him, not understand him, than this like almost kind of sort of understanding him. And Donut can only understand him when it's relevant to the plot. And then even further on, eventually Griff learns Spanish, and then now refuses to speak Spanish to Lopez, which is funny too. And the reason behind Griff learning Spanish isn't to actually communicate with Lopez, it's just to imitate Lopez when Griff was alone. Just the whole, I don't know, the whole premise around Lopez has just been hilarious to me, in my opinion. He's one of my favorite characters on the show. Well, he's my favorite character on the show. I mean, all of these are my favorite characters on the show. This is why I couldn't do just one top 15 list. I'm gonna have to do multiples for this. There's gonna be at least 3 parts, but maybe just 2. I'll see if I can gather enough side characters together for a part 3. But it's a great show. It's hilarious. I'm glad I started watching it. It's been a while now. Multiple rewatches. The show I've rewatched the most is Red vs. Blue, even though I'm such a huge Lost and It's Always Sunny fan. But the show is great. The characters are great. It's hilarious, and I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this top 15 video. I'll have my next part of this up next week.